I'm very happy to present three very esteemed speakers, industry leaders, very involved in different organizations. I have to my left Dr. Gaetano Cavalieri, who is the president of CIBJO, the World Jewellery Confederation, and he's been an industry leader for many decades. Iris van der Veken, who is the managing director, executive director of the Watch Jewellery Initiative 2030, based in Geneva, Switzerland. And finally, also to represent Germany, Dr. Guido Grohmann from the Bundesverband Schmuck, Uhren und Silberwaren und verwandte Industrien.
Thank you.
If anybody, falls es Leute gibt, die nicht Englisch verstehen, es gibt vorne Headsets. So there are headsets with simultaneous translation. Thank you very much to the interpreters. And today's theme is going to be about SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. So breaking down barriers, unlocking industry knowledge for SMEs in the jewelry industry. SMEs are very, very present in the jewelry industry. Gaetano, I think you would agree you have a great amount of experience both from your family business and all the work that you've done with CIBJO and other organizations with SMEs. What is an SME and what are kind of the challenges that SMEs are facing in the industry today? Could you briefly explain this to us?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for being with us today, even though it's 1:15 or 17. This is exactly the lunchtime, but we will try to give you something which will be interesting. SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. Under the point of view of CIBJO, the World Jewellery Confederation, considering that we represent mostly the rank and file, meaning the SMEs, and we represent up to now over 50 countries around the world and an incredible number of so-called commercial members, such as the BIS, GIA, and many, many others, just to mention few. But still, the total of companies that we represent through our association and membership is equal to 7,200,000 companies around the world. The majority of those are SMEs. And the SMEs from companies with just family companies with 1, 2, 3 people to groups such as the BIS or Cartier or Caring Group and many, many others with thousands and thousands of people. Our role has been, since the last 100 years this year, to harmonize the needs of the one and the other, setting rules and standards through which each of those companies may grow and flourish. How? The big companies, they have financial capacity to do that. The small companies has not. And when we talk about development, what is the essence of the small companies, not towards the big companies, but towards the consumers? Because at the end of the day is how you produce your product, how do you get your elements, your components from, and the capacity to be in every single part of the process, transparent, honest, with a very high sense of the respect toward the consumer. In all these elements, what we are presenting is now called, since a number of years, sustainability, previously corporate social responsibility, and then sustainability, and then transparency, and then ESGs, and then, we can, let's say, create new words with the elements of what is what my father, my company, my family is in the business since 1821. And I tell you a story. Certainly we are not or never been a very big companies, but still, I mean, we had and we still have our, let's say, capacity to manage business at a certain level. But again, there was an episode that I always remember, which is this. One day, a young lady came to our office and he said, you know, I want to open a jewelry shop and I have chosen your company to work with. I said, thank you very much. Why? I said, because my grandmother used to work with your father, and my grandmother told me, you go to this company because it's reliable. Now, it's not an advertising for my family, but it's the reason why the people is choosing companies to make business with, which is reason, honesty, respect, transparency, flexibility, you know, all those elements, and honoring what you say. So the sense of this is an element that the small and medium-sized enterprises that personalize with their own credibility, apart their own money, apart their own heart, they do that by heart, and because this business, especially in that side where the people is responsible for their life and the life of their family, is highly linked, and respect for them as well, respect for the client, the consumer, is all interconnected.
So this is a good way to transition also to Iris. Your young organization is younger. You also have very big companies that are members, but you obviously also have a focus on SMEs. Can you share from WJI 2030's perspective, why is the focus on SME so important, and where is the knowledge gap?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You might have some slides, I believe.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I'm fully aligned with Dr. Gaetano. Our industry is indeed at the heart of our craftsmanship, and what we create are SMEs. And SMEs are very much challenged today, and I don't have to tell you because we are under tremendous economic pressure. Then you have the over-regulations, and believe me, I'm not against regulations. I think regulations are important to set standards and to protect our industry, but of course they have to be practical. And at the same time that SME has to navigate quite, you know, a very challenging geopolitical context with very high prices on gold, silver, all the core materials, and they have to make money. And I think for us, it's super important. And for those that do not know what the Watch Initiative 2030 is about, you know, we are not a standards body. I think I need to reiterate that, but we're really here to be an accelerator for the industry to advance 3 interconnected topics: climate, nature, and biodiversity and inclusiveness. And just allow me, and I did make a slide on that, is that when I think about the industry's challenges for SMEs, so I talk about regulations. But when we think about regulations, I think a very important topic that you mentioned, Dr. Gaetano, is trust. So we are in the business of trust and emotional connection. So with whatever we create, if we abuse that trust to the consumer, it hits on the whole industry. And that's why I've been an activist, not as long as you, Dr. Gaetano, on protecting that trust. And there the SMEs are the backbone, because they are the ones that are supplying to these big brands, or they have their own family business, or they're creating their own beautiful products. So we need to protect that. I think what is also important is education. We talked about it in an ever-complex regulatory framework. You know, what are the must-haves? What do I have to do to respect the law, so not to be in trouble? But also, you should imagine, you know, do we really need laws to be able to do good? And then there are the new topics. And, you know, people might say because of Omnibus and the EU policies that it's stepping, that we're stepping away from it. I am telling you, it's here to stay. Climate and nature is here to stay. And sometimes people tell me, oh, Iris, climate, nature, what does this have to do with my business? Well, think about the cocoa prices going up. Think about the olive prices going up. Think about water droughts. Think about your factory maybe in Florence that is being hit by or water or scarcity. And what is the water dependency, for example, for diamonds in Gujarat? How do we optimize? How do we understand actually what we are dependent on? And more we see that, big brands are moving very quickly because they want to see and understand that impact also on climate and nature. So it's here to stay. And my point is, and I had this lovely conversation before, we as an industry, we need to all move forward and not behind. Because the risk is, if one company is hit, we're all hit. And, I think recently we saw some examples of that the past few days in the news. It's not good for the industry. So we have a shared accountability.
And then maybe, Guido, what does it mean you're representing German SMEs, or KMUs as we say in German? What are their questions, where's the knowledge gap, or where are the challenges that they are facing? Because Iris mentioned very, very big challenges. This can be overwhelming for many SMEs. How are they dealing with this, and how are you as an association also helping them?
Well, is it on? Yeah. Hello. I think first and foremost, many SMEs trying to tackle these kind of topics are first and foremost struggling with isolation. They are on their own. They are obviously extremely capable of their craft that they are doing, but they also lack the time to really get involved and continuously monitor regulations, sustainability requirements, international standards, all of that. So, but I think that the biggest challenge is not necessarily the lack of information. It's out there. We will talk about digital platforms right now. Information is there, and Danielle is here somewhere. You talked about this last afternoon. There's more information out there than people actually can read. So I think the biggest challenge for SMEs in that sort of field is orientation. SMEs simply don't know which information is relevant for them, what is reliable, very important, and what requires action now. Associations like the one I work for, those associations are or can be the channels that can be used by SMEs in order to gain that kind of knowledge. Or let's put it the other way around. For us, in order to get that knowledge to the SMEs, I think we need to use different formats in order to do so. For us, for our association, the first format we use is just proactive outreach, with newsletters, all kinds of things. Second, and this is very important to me, is we need to translate information, because something that we have talked about this before, we have so much information out there, but it's always in English. And that's okay in a corporate environment. But for SMEs, if they want to hand a topic over to a certain employee, that often gets a problem. So first and foremost, my association tries to find out what information is important and then translate it into German. Because often this might sound irrelevant, but it actually is relevant. If we don't have the information in the German language, it often doesn't get read. And that's where the problem starts. And the third thing we try to do is we try to organize events, do workshops, get people together. Because what's also very interesting is SMEs trust other SMEs if they are working in the same field. And just to bring those people together and let them network and then give them some extra information in these events really helps people getting forward.
Okay, thank you. I think we just have a small microphone issue there. But over to Iris, I'm wondering, let's say we have an SME here with 2 employees or 5 employees. Where should they start? I mean, even this conversation here, it can feel overwhelming. Guido made a brilliant point about saying it should not just be in English or in technocratic concepts and terms and whatnot. Where to start?
So first of all, it's a journey in an imperfect world. Sometimes when I speak to small enterprises, they're quite scared or they even have anxiety. I think the first important role, and you said it so wisely, is they have to understand what legislation applies to them. And then if we think about our industry, they need to look at the baseline is sourcing. Where are your materials coming from? And this seems such an obvious question, but as we know, and we have Brian here in the audience, when we think about colored gemstones, if we think even about diamonds, if we think about malaise, we have to go to origin, we have to go to source of mine. So it means this is a process of due diligence. So I think the first element we need to focus on is due diligence on responsible sourcing. And then I call it the baseline logic of any company is, you want to understand human rights, and that's a very big topic, but you should start with your own people in your organization. And that indeed, if we're talking about 2-3 people, but your wage structure, overtime, seasonality, your contractors. But like I said, it's where is your biggest risks. So you need to prioritize. And what we are trying to do, and I would say with humility, because a lot of organizations are out there and doing really good work, is we've been working very closely on a risk mapping of the world on the different materials, working with experts for the past 2 years, and it's in draft, with really the idea to help SMEs to be able to de-risk, but also to have an approach, and we talked about it, what we call the conscious craftsmanship pathway, which we're doing in collaboration with CIBJO, is really to understand, okay, what are the small steps I can take, and also how is that aligned with legislation? Because I think SMEs don't have time to do additional things, which is fine. But at least, for me, the baseline is, your due diligence. And I think with the initiative, and allow me just to share, we've worked very hard on this work, and it's open source. And I'm just going to talk about 2 things. Conscious craft, for example, is really about due diligence. How do you start it? How do you even implement the European directive, etc.? Small steps, but also templates. And we've gone a step further, and we've built what we call an action platform, a digital platform for any small enterprise to go into, to be able to get data points. But before data, you have to do actions. So again, with templates and guidance. And what is important, I think, is always that companies should not be overwhelmed. And that's why we've been working on what we call 3 pathways. One is education, and we do that through help desk support. So yes, people can go into webinars, but I don't believe alone on webinars. Webinars are great. You need to sit sometimes in a room, like you say, with your peers, being able to ask those scary questions and to be able to get feedback. But then we give homework, and we actually bring them on a journey, and they have a safe space to ask questions by an expert. And that works very well. So we've been doing this with many enterprises, so we can bring them on the pathway of compliance with experts, so they feel confident that what they have is at least their baseline journey, I would say. But it takes a lot of effort, and I agreed. We see that there's no time, and you said it, Dr. Gaetano, they don't have the resources for expensive legal counsel, and I think that's where the collaboration is so important. And one thing I still wanted to mention to this audience is, when I came to the industry 25 years ago, it was all about management systems, standards on companies. Today, that's not enough. We're going to product. We're going to product claims to consumers. And Gaetano, you said it so well. So this means is you need different data points. And when you look at the green directive of the EU and making claims, it means is if you're a supplier to one of those brands, or even if you're going to bring a product out there, you need to have product data. And that is a big game changer. So I think it's very important for us as an industry to really think ahead. We need the data for the product to be able to build that trust to the consumer.
But part of the challenge, Gaetano, I think you've mentioned this many times, and CIBJO has highlighted it, SMEs just don't have that data. If you go see a supplier here and you ask them where is that emerald from, they say, I don't know. So, you've talked about this also with all the traceability systems and standards, that we need to take this complexity into account. What are your views on this, or how is CIBJO kind of navigating this, given that you also have a lot of free resources available on your website? The Congress is also a very good opportunity for learning. What are your views on this?
Well, in CIBJO, we are the organization that is really care about the industry, the components of the industry from mine to retail, and on top of it, the consumers. In terms of how the organization works, is very simple. Everybody is working because he's in love of this industry and is integral part of this industry. And nobody's paid. Nobody, apart the staff. All the others, from the president to the members that are working in sectors, commissions, committees, and so on, nobody's paid. We are on our own expenses wherever we go or wherever we do, unless we are specifically invited from, an organization such as this fair or the other organization in the world. But mostly, we all pay our expenses. What does it mean? What is the reason why we do that? The reason is that this industry is a wonderful industry. The people has to understand that the work that on daily basis people in CIBJO from one place to another place are doing is focus on develop on daily basis the relation within the industry and outside the industry. Now, looking my friends from Brazil here, apart you, but the real Brazilian, let's put like this. I understand you live in Brazil, but you were born somewhere else. Otherwise, your president, Mr. Trump, will give you some. But I received an email from the vice president of IBGM. Said, well, I'm going to India, I'm going to Korea. Could you please put me in connection with them? I said, absolutely. So I called the person who is responsible in India. I said, my friend is coming over from Brazil, representing a very important industry, the Brazilian, obviously they know. Said, please meet. She will be in Delhi. She is part of a business trip from head from the president of Brazil, Mr. Lula. So please do whatever. I saw the post and so on. I had an interchange of messages this morning early with her that she still is in Delhi is still in Delhi, right? And they start moving on. Now, why I'm saying that? Because this is the element. What is the most important element of CIBJO, or one of the most important, is network. And the people is connecting each other. On top of it, whatever we produce is freely available in the website for free. Yeah. No cost, zero cost. I give you an example. If you go into the website and you see, for instance, in terms of ESGs, we have done and continue doing an incredible job with an important group from United Kingdom, the so-called the wheel. If you see, this wheel is in several parts regarding each of the goal of each of the ESGs with the 17 goals, United Nations sustainable goals. And there is a simple, let's say, way of doing things, how to do, what to do. And everybody, if they want to do something which is more, there is also our telephone number, including my mobile, on the website. They call. Yeah. Or they send an email, and we answer every single email we received, even though we received thousands of emails. But we follow up, and whatever we can do to help and support, we simply do. Why? Because we are committed to this industry. Yeah. Because the people that is living because of the industry, they deserve to be helped and support wherever they are in the world, member and not member. Obviously, the member are there to help also financially with the little fee that each one of the members is paying towards the association. But still, we are very proud to be a poor association, even though we are based in Switzerland, headquartered in Bern. And why? Because the Swiss legislation is very respected all over the world. You have to do the thing by the books. You don't do that, then you have a penalty.
Yeah.
So that's why.
And you're also based in Switzerland, and trust is very important.
Trust is very important, but to
Excuse me, but we are based in Bern, the capital
Yeah.
of Switzerland.
Try again.
well, but to step in, I think for SMEs, I think there are a few things. I think for SMEs, it's important that they feel safe, that they're compliant. So we should not forget, and I'm sorry I'm repeating that, but the law is important, and then there are international best practices. Second, that there's harmonization. I see a lot of suffering by SMEs because they are getting very different requirements, compliance requirements from commercial agreements that are not harmonized. So that is an additional burden, cost to the SME. And then I think there's the opportunity to educate the SME, not because of the law, because I find that a bit sad, but just because it makes sense for the business, that they see it as relevance for business resilience, for the purpose of an SME is to bring it to the next generation. So how can we really put that as oxygen into those SMEs? And I very much agree with you is also that today our industry needs to generally work better together. And I mean that. And I think, we have, I think we are working very well together, but I think all the organizations and associations, if we align better, we're not going to confuse. I think when we start to confuse because we're not consistent in what we do, then it becomes a challenge. So I think also the fact of working together on a common agenda, and there's space for all of us to thrive, because there's a lot of work to do. How can we do that better to optimize resources for the SMEs? Yeah.
And it's not just about sustainability or regulations, right? The theme this year is craftsmanship. And obviously, I think Guido can mention something about this more afterwards. But, training young people, all the skills that we need in the jewelry industry, some of these skills are getting lost. We need to, as an industry, also really highlight more of this, work with SMEs to really get that knowledge out there, inspire a new generation of craftsmen and craftswomen so that this industry can continue.
Yeah, and allow me to say, I think we're so lucky to work in this industry, right? Every time I walk around into a fair, I'm so happy I'm in this industry, because we create craft, we create art, precision is important, beauty is important, innovation is important. But how are we going to attract young people to want to work for our industry with the hands, savoir-faire skills? How will we attract people to work in manufacturing sites around the world? How can we get more women around the table? I'm sorry, I deeply respect the three of you, but we have some wonderful young talent in the room, and let youngsters also have a voice at the table, and let there be really gender equality. And how can we as an industry, where 90% of consumer behavior is influenced by women, and where women are also, much more independent and have their own economic empowerment, so they're a key customer, how can we bring that agenda also to the table? And that requires men allies, right, Gaetano?
Yeah, very good points. Thank you, Iris. And Guido, isolation, you mentioned the word before, isolation. What are your thoughts on this in Germany? And also maybe to some of the points that Iris mentioned about inspiring a new generation to join the trade. That's something that you've actively campaigned about, or your association has been working on.
Well, I can only speak for my country. It's difficult on the one side. On the other side, we have how can I put this? We have a clear advantage over other industries. The most jobs, especially if they are craft jobs, they are really cool. They have sex appeal. If you go to, in Germany we have those shows where students can go and look at the different crafts and find out what they want to do. We always see goldsmith, same as watchmaker, for example. Students running around looking at different tables, the biggest crowds are always around these kind of tables, because it has many things that are cool. You work with cool materials, the output, the product that you have afterwards is cool. The customers that you get really long for getting what you're working at. So That's actually an advantage, but still there's a lot of time. We have our partner associations, Michael Seubert is over there from the goldsmiths, but also the watchmakers, and also us from the industry. We put a lot of effort into going to these kind of shows and showing them. I don't know if somebody from the Watchmakers Association is here, but they have the coolest thing. They built this van, you can see it in Hall C2, and they have a complete watchmaking workshop inside the van. So they go from show to show, they open up the doors and they have the complete workshop in there, and students can go in and see it live. They also have screens on the outside, so what they do inside gets broadcasted on the screens on the outside. And the result is fantastic. So I don't fear, especially with AI now taking away all the jobs from the students that go to university. I don't fear that we will find enough people for our craftsman jobs in our industry. The problem is we need to work for, but we do that, and we are successful with it. Do we have to do more? Yes, because the problem is getting bigger and bigger with the generation, with the people getting older and older.
And this is also part of one of your pillars, right? Inclusiveness, right?
So,
who do you bring into the industry?
So as you know, the initiative focuses on climate, biodiversity and nature, and inclusiveness. And within inclusiveness, we ask actually companies to sign the Women Empowerment Principles. So 7 principles to advance the gender lens in workplace, marketplace, and community. So for those that want to really start integrating that gender lens, fine. But for those that want to accelerate, we have what we call a gender-responsive procurement program. And that means is how much are you buying from women entrepreneurs? And I'm not saying a woman that is a director in a company of a man, you know, as a formality. I'm really talking about the real women entrepreneurs. So how can you really start measuring that? But it also means economic empowerment. And we were talking about colored gemstone business or gold. We need more women entrepreneurs. So that's one program. And then one pathway that we are really advancing on Dr. Annie Noemua, founder of 100 Women of Davos and part of our board, is an inclusive leadership pathway across business functions. So yes, I agree. We are a very beautiful, attractive industry. But how are we going to get women engineers to come into our industry? How do we get more young girls to do craftsmanship? So I do think we need to accelerate the effort because I have the data and the data say something different. And I think that's where we need to push as a collective because, you know, I think it's a shared responsibility to not leave 50% of the world behind and as an industry of emotional connection to push that agenda.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's also worth visiting some of the booths around Old C2 and to see all the designers. And there's a lot of young female designers and goldsmiths that are exhibiting there. Maybe to one of our final points about digital platforms. So we have this problem of isolation, as Guido already mentioned. It can be overwhelming for SMEs. How can digital become an ally for some of the SMEs to translate some of these needs, some of these things that need to happen? What are your thoughts on this, Gaetano, so that we can further accelerate, to use a word that Iris already used, this impact or where we need to get to?
Well, it was a revolution years ago when they start to use the 3D printer. You may remember, you know, I saw myself, you know, that there was the designer in one place in the world making design, put in the computer, push the button, and somewhere in the other side of the world, that design was becoming a model. Many years ago. Today, we are in the era of artificial intelligence. And clearly, something like this may help using properly. I mean, artificial intelligence is a wonderful tool, but in any case, has to be used properly. What does it mean properly? Use responsibly, without going into funny things as may happen. You know, we can see today, we all receive a lot of messages said, oh, your account has been used this, please click here and you go. And they take everything from you. But artificial intelligence, in terms of our business, it's important, is essential, as well is essential what you mentioned with the design, with new product, with the same transparency, honesty, and dedication when you do things, because these people that is listening here, and not only them, but all the rest that is in the jewelry business, you know, is doing because passion, because heart, because dedication. And with the same element, we can do that towards the young generation, the young designers in CIBJO, what we have done. We have the Blue Books, and the Blue Books is the set of standards which is on, and the gentleman seated in front of me here, Dr. Thomas Lind, Vice President of the Sector 3 from Ida Oberstein, is one of those that has contributed as well. This gentleman and lady from Brazil, as when the adopted Brazilian one and few others in the room. Well, you have an American passport, right, Brian? Yeah, all right, very good. But apart that, you know, the contribution that each one is giving is there. Now, how to transform this set of standards, which is used in the Court of Justice all over the world, has to be translated. Another gentleman, who is one of our vice president, Mr. Ken Scarrett, who is British living in Thailand, has translated the Blue Book into what is the academy, in order that everybody can read and comply and use those rules easily. On the other hand, what we have done is set up and announce another academy school in Milano, which will be only for international people, so not for the Italians, but for the international people, that will be launched I believe, in few months. We have already the school, we are hosted, we have the venue, we have the program, we have everything, where we are getting the old people that were the head of top jewelry factories, that they have been retired. And the fact that they are old doesn't mean that they are useless. So we are bringing them in to teach to the young generation how to do, what to do, and when to do, and so on. So including, you know, the element of the corporate social responsibility, the ESGs, the 17 goals, and so on. And we are constantly working silently, because we don't need to make, you know, everything, you know, make announcement. We do things. And we are mostly doer instead to be talker. Because a lot of people is talking, including us today. But here, in this stage, as well in the audience, there is people that is doing things every day. This gentleman, who is the head of one of the important Calastone mines in Brazil, I know him and I know the family since many, many years, and he is continuing.
And he'll be giving a talk tomorrow afternoon, so anybody who wants to learn more about this mine.
I am not...
I do want to mention it.
Yeah. I don't want to take... but I can see him, and you know, because I speak by heart, I do not have a prepared speech. I can see what is, as I can say also, this gentleman, Brian, that is doing his job fantastically, or this lady next to him, Kyle, I'm talking about you, so you are busy with... And Absolutely. You know, it's very important. So let's keep contributing and keep going.
Absolutely. And if I may, if we come back to this question of the digital areas, how can we use the digital to bridge this knowledge gap for SMEs or that they're experiencing?
So I think digital is an enabler. It's an enabler. Huh? It's really important. And I think for us as an initiative, it was super important from the start to be able to measure progress. But when you want to measure progress, you need data. But to get credible data, you need first companies to do things. That was actually the philosophy. And what we did was quite an unusual move. Was we partnered with ESG Book in London, who works with bankers and investors, and we said, what is technology that the banks use to really look at rating their clients? And we built what we call an action platform, and I call it a stairway. You know, on the stairs you take small steps and you might tumble down, but you'll go back up with different pathways. So different pathways that companies can choose, and we have an SME pathway, and very aligned with what we do as an industry, but also to help companies become compliant. Because what we did not want to do was just to say, oh, there's this in an initiative and we're going to create another framework. No, we wanted to build a solution that gives business value. So we have the SME pathway fully aligned with the European Commission compliance requirements, and companies do this. But it's not enough, it's an enabler. So as Gaetano said, a lot is still hand-holding. And I have, you know, two of my fantastic people here in the room, Nicola and Mia, and they know we work closely with webinars, help desk support, expert questions to be able to get them to action, our companies, and then to be able to monitor progress. And it's a slow and steady process, but it's moving. And today I can proudly say that we have 85%, you know, on the platform, but like I said, it's still a lot of hand-holding, and I think that's fine as long as we all progress. But for us, it started actually from the need of the operationalization of the complexity of compliance, and then for those more ambitious to say, well, if you want to do more, we also have a solution. Just go for the, you know, more advanced pathway, and we see also companies doing this, which is encouraging. Because that means is they start to see that it's beyond compliance, right? It makes business sense to do this. And also I wanted to say just everything that we're building, when it's ready, it's open source. So we already have a lot of tools open source. And for those companies that are interested in the SME pathway, we have now tested it with several players, and we're happy for you if you want to join and try and give your feedback. It's not a perfect journey, but happy to work with you on that. And that's, you don't need to be a member of the initiative to participate in that.
And I think that's great that all three of you mentioned this. If anybody has questions, you can reach out to all three of you, but also to your organizations and associations. And this is very constructive and kind of open-minded. Guido, digital, I mean, if there's an SME here in the room, is there a concrete recommendation that you could give them on how to begin this process? As Iris also mentioned, this imperfect journey. You want to start something, you need to start somewhere. Any recommendations that you could provide?
In terms of digital?
Well, in terms of digital, or in terms of just tools or ways of moving forward, because that's where the world is going.
Let me say something non-digital, because Iris said it before. We need to get people together and get to network, get to talk to each other. So one thing you could do within the next months is you could register for the Sustainable Jewellery Day in Pforzheim. This is the advertising part now.
Yeah.
We do an event with our association in Pforzheim where we try to tackle these topics every 2 years. The reason we do it the way we do it is we want our companies, our member companies, but also others who would like to join, to get them for one day, it's only one day, to get them for one day into one room, talk about this, hear other people talk about it, but then talk to each other about it and find ways how to work together to actually get things going. And if you're interested, on the 8th of July this year in Pforzheim, we will have a lot of interesting guests. One of them is Dr. Cavalieri, representing CIBJO. One of them is Iris, representing the Watch and Jewellery Initiative, but the Responsible Jewellery Council will be there. We will have a whole showcase, a consortium of companies showing an example of how traceability in the diamond industry can actually work. The consortium is from De Beers, Tracer, GIA, and Gould. They will all come and show their showcase. Lots of other things. So that could be a starting point. If you want to join us and start talking about sustainability, in this case, that's just one topic, feel welcome to join us.
Iris, any thoughts?
I think we need to work together. I think we need to work better together, because, like I said, we're already working very closely with Dr. Gaetano. We work very closely with Francis Cla. I see, you know, what is really important also is that we do not reinvent the wheel. So we have CIBJO Blue Books, like you said, Gaetano, we have the wheel. For example, everything that we have been working on, we have been cross-referencing. And I think that also needs to be respect for what you do. So if tomorrow CIBJO has a better tool for the whole industry, let's all adapt that. Let's put our ego down. And the same is, we have the standard of the Responsible Jewellery Council. We have so much good work that has been done, but I think we need to just see how do we unite, and then also what works best for who. But at the end of the day, the protection of the integrity of the industry is a collective responsibility, and that's non-negotiable.
Thank you. Final thought, last but not least.
Let's enjoy together.
Let's enjoy together. Okay, it's also important to have some fun on the journey. Thank you all three for all your insights and perspectives. I'm sure you'll still be around here. Yeah, of course. If there are questions. Thank you. Yeah, let's take a picture.